Chapter 3, Section 2, Part 2. Please make sure to have your notes easily accessible to complete them as you watch this video and follow along with the textbook or reading the textbook. So, the New England Way. The basic unit of the Commonwealth was the congregation in New England, a group of people who belonged to the same church. Each Puritan congregation set up its own town. The meeting house was the most important building in each town. There, people gathered for town meetings, which is a form of self-government in which people made laws and other decisions for the community. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony, only male church members could vote or hold office. They elected representatives to a law-making body called the General Court, which in turn chose the governor. By law, everyone in town had to attend church services held in the meeting house. The sermon, the most important part of the church service, provided instruction in the New England Way. This was a term used by the Puritans to describe both their beliefs and their society, which emphasized duty, godliness, hard work, and honesty. The Puritans thought that amusements such as dancing and playing games would lead to laziness. They believed that God required them to work long and hard at their vocation. So pretty much their day consisted of wake up, pray, have breakfast, work, pray, have lunch, work, pray, supper, pray, get ready for bed, pray, and then go to sleep. Singing, dancing, fun, games of any kind, anything that was not geared towards God or working hard was considered a sin and basically against the law. The Puritan work ethic helped contribute to the rapid growth and success of the New England colonies. The New England Way also depended on education. Because the Puritans wanted everyone to be able to read the Bible, laws required that all children learn to read. Some Puritan congregations set up new colonies. In 1636, Thomas Hooker moved his congregation to the Connecticut Valley, in what would be present-day, obviously, Connecticut. There they wrote and adopted the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut in 1639. In effect, these laws were a constitution. The Fundamental Orders extended voting rights to non-church members versus the Puritan community in Massachusetts Bay only allowed church members to vote. And the Fundamental Orders also limited the power of the governor. They expanded the idea of representative government. In other words, having a representative in government to represent you as a voter or a member of the community, instead of having one person like a king who was quote-unquote born to rule and could do and say and make laws as he wanted. The first European settlement in New Hampshire was a village near Portsmouth in 1623. In 1638, John Wheelwright established the town of Exeter. The town's founders drew up the Exeter Compact, which was based on the Mayflower Compact. Okay, so here's where we can find Portsmouth, that was founded by John Wheelwright founded in New Hampshire in 1623, the first European settlement. And Exeter can actually be found just south here of Portsmouth, also in, let's capitalize that, also in New Hampshire. Challenges the Puritan leaders. Not everyone agreed with the New England Way. Roger Williams, seen here, was a minister in Salem, Massachusetts, who founded the first Baptist church in America. He opposed forced attendance at church. He also opposed the English colonists taking Native American lands by force. Because of his beliefs, the General Court in Salem forced Williams to leave the colony. In 1636, he fled southward and founded the colony of Rhode Island, which guaranteed religious freedom and the separation of church and state. Which is why today you can find Roger Williams University in the state of, you guessed it, Rhode Island. Anne Hutchinson believed that a person could worship God without the help of a church, minister, or Bible. She conducted discussions in her home that challenged church authority. Hutchinson was brought to trial and forced to leave Massachusetts by the same General Court that forced Williams to flee in 1636. So in 1638, She fled to Rhode Island and joined Roger Williams there for the religious freedom that was offered in Rhode Island versus the forced church attendance and lack of freedom that the Puritans offered in Massachusetts Bay Colony. Another early religious group was the Quakers. Their name came from an early leader statement that they should, quote, tremble and quake at the word of the Lord. So, in other words, to be afraid, or in not so much afraid, but to be in awe of God and the Word of God. Opponents coined the name as an insult. Quakers challenged the Massachusetts Commonwealth. They believed that each person could know God directly through an inner light. Neither ministers nor the Bible was needed in the Quaker belief. Quakers also believed in treating Native Americans fairly, which set them apart from other colonists. For such beliefs, Quakers were whipped, imprisoned, and hanged. Many also left for Rhode Island from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And as you can see, if you've ever seen Quaker Oats, right, that's what many Quakers would have dressed like at the time, and wearing the hats and the stereotypical type of clothing of Quakers you can see pictured here, like on the Quaker oatmeal box, and the Quaker Chewy bars and all the other Quaker products that are produced today. King Philip's War. The growing population of colonists began to force the Native Americans from their land. Europeans and Native Americans defined land ownership differently. To Europeans, land could be owned by individuals. To Native Americans, land belonged to everyone. Conflict over land resulted in warfare. In 1675 through 1676, the Puritan colonies fought a brutal war with the Native Americans. This was known as King Philip's War. King Philip was the English name of Metacom, the leader of the Wampanoag. To help fight the war, Metacom organized an alliance of tribes. The Wampanoag lost the war. Many were killed, while others were sold into slavery in the West Indies. Those who remained lost their land and were forced to become laborers. English settlers expanded even farther into Native American land. Okay, so here we can see a brief summary of King Philip's War. It's important to understand the reasons for conflict were debate and conflict over land ownership, differences in religion, and increased populations of Europeans, which were demanding more and more of the Native American land. The Native Americans lose the war, and they lose approximately 3,000 members of the Native Americans there, of the Wampanoag. King Philip himself is killed, and about 500 Native Americans are forced into slavery by the settling colonists in the New England region. The Europeans, or the settlers, the immigrants in the New England region, lost about 600 people, were killed. More than 45 different villages were attacked, and about 12 villages were destroyed. And here is an image of a Native American attack on a settlers' village in New England during King Philip's War, once again, which lasted from 1675 through 1676, and mostly over the immigrant or the European desire for more and more land as more and more Europeans were arriving in New England. The Salem Witchcraft Trials. Puritan New England was originally a society centered on the church. By the late 1600s, however, this had begun to change. Societal changes in Puritan New England had led to an atmosphere of fear and suspicion. Then, several Salem village girls were told frightening stories about witches by Tituba, a slave from the West Indies. Pretending to be bewitched, the girls falsely accused others of witchcraft. The witch hunts began in 1692. The clergy, or the authorities of the church, viewed the Salem witch hunts and trials as a sign from God for the village to return to a strict Puritan lifestyle. Hysteria spread through Salem. Those accused were forced to name other witches. More than 100 people were arrested and tried. Of those 100 that were arrested and tried, 20 were found guilty and put to death. 19 persons were hanged, and another was pressed to death by heavy stones when he refused to enter a plea in response to the charge of witchcraft. The panic was short-lived, and Salem came to its senses. The experience showed, however, how a society can create scapegoats for its problems. In our next section, Chapter 3, Section 3, we will read and watch about the Middle and Southern colonies, how they were founded, and how they provided the new settlers with economic opportunities. Please make sure to use the information provided in this video to complete your notes through the Google Classroom, and don't forget to turn in, otherwise it will be late. See you in class tomorrow.